Hello and welcome to Recharge Wrestling. We're here to plug you into the world of professional wrestling. I'm Fisher and I'm here today on my own, as you can see, with just a bit of a review of Backlash, as we didn't do anything for it, and last night's Raw. So I'm doing this video on a Tuesday. So I'll talk a little bit about last night's Raw as well, and what's happening with the World Heavyweight Championship tournament in particular, and some new stars getting drafted to Raw, and some interesting things that happened. But mainly I just want to talk about Backlash. Excellent show. I think it was definitely one of those shows where people had low expectations going in because there were matches that weren't built at all, or very little build, and there wasn't too much to be excited about other than maybe one or two matches. But it over-delivered in the sense of in-ring action was very good, but the crowd, and this goes for SmackDown as well, was absolutely outstanding, and that really, really helped the quality of the show, in my opinion. Real joy to watch, and a pay-per-view of the year contender. Let us know if you think Backlash was a pay-per-view of the year contender, because I would say overall it was. I think it was very, very good. So let's get into what happened. So I was already talked about the hot crowd. The opener was, the crowd was mad really, because you had Bianca Belair versus Io. I wanted to call it Io Shirai then, but Io Sky. And weirdly, they were booing Bianca and cheering Io. One of those backwards crowds. I love it when that happens. Belair kind of getting the Cena reaction in terms of like getting booed and being the dominant babyface. I do feel like she's kind of going into that female Cena role now, where she's a dominant babyface champion that people want to see get beaten towards the end of their reign. I think we're kind of getting into that territory with Bianca a little bit, but this is the first time, obviously, that she's been the crowd see her as the heel. And this match, in-ring quality-wise, I think this was the match of the night. It was so good. Definitely Io Sky, her best match on the main roster so far. Really, really strong. And Bianca delivers in big matches. We've seen this at WrestleMania, the last couple of years with Sasha, with Becky, etc. So, yeah, no real surprise, and no surprise with the result either. It was quite a predictable show. Our Predictions League, follow us at Recharge Wrestle for information on that. But yeah, a lot of people got 6 or more results out of 7, 5, 6. One guy, Jack, I'm sure you're probably watching or listening, he got 100%, so well done to you, mate. He's top of the league with that. Overtaken me, actually. I'm in second place ahead of both Keeney and Krusty, so I'm happy about that. But yeah, very kind of predictable show, but that's not always necessarily a bad thing, because I think it was booked in the right way. And like I say, this match, Bianca wins and sets up probably a new challenger, I'm assuming, on SmackDown. We will see. We had Seth Rollins versus Omos. That was, again, no build to this match, no real excitement. The crowd was pretty into it, though. And to be honest with you, it was a strong match from Omos' point of view. He hasn't had many where you're like, wow, this is great, because he's not a great in-ring performer. But as far as he goes, it was pretty strong, I would say. And Rollins got the best out of him. The finish was cool. It took 3 stomps, including one off the top rope, which looked badass, to get Omos down, and Rollins rightfully wins. And he goes on to Raw, to that World Championship tournament, looking strong, which was obviously, if you look at when we get to Raw, was the right decision. So, yeah, very, very good stuff. Really enjoyed all of that. I thought it was excellent. For what it was, it wasn't a 5-star classic, and it didn't go too long. The one match on this show that I think was a bit filler and didn't need to be there was the Triple Threat United States Championship match. We've seen Theory and Lashley wrestle each other a lot. It was cool to get Bronson Reed on a pay-per-view showing. He's not really had that opportunity. I know he was in the Elimination Chamber as well, but it was cool to see him get like a big match. So I liked that. But really, this match could have been done on TV. There was 7 matches on the show. A lot of Triple H's sort of minor pay-per-views have had 6. So maybe this match didn't need to be there, but it was still okay, and maybe a predictable finish with Theory winning, throwing Lashley out of the ring at the end and pinning Reed, who was always going to be the guy that took the pin, I think, in that match. But it was a decent enough match, nothing really to write home about. But the show really picked up sort of after these opening. I mean, the first match was fantastic. Then we had a couple of good matches, and then the show really picked up. Sort of I'd say the last 4 matches, actually. We had Rhea versus Zelina, and this is where the crowd really, really got hot, because obviously Zelina Vega comes out dressed in the Puerto Rico flag, very emotional for her, holding back tears. And then her and Rhea had a fun match. It wasn't anything special in terms of in-ring, but the emotion behind it made it a great match for her. And I'm glad Zelina got this moment in front of her home crowd. She was always going to lose. She was never going to win it. Rhea's only just won the title. It would have been silly for her to drop it already. And it would have meant the 2 belts would have been on SmackDown. It wouldn't have made any sense for Zelina to win. But she got a decent enough in-ring showing. I think people will be happy with that. And Rhea looked strong, beat her clean. It was what it was. And yeah, like I say, she had the moment in the crowd before and after. It was cool. It was really cool. And then the crowd got even more nuts, because then out comes Bad Bunny for his match against Damian Priest. And entrance-wise, this is one of the coolest entrances I've ever seen. I've seen a lot of people on Twitter saying that they've watched this entrance multiple times. He's playing his song, I can't remember what it's called, but it's the crowd are so into it, singing the song, and he's got all these weapons. It just looks so badass, and the crowd are so into it. One of the coolest entrances I've seen in a very long time. And then the match was just brilliant. For me, probably the most entertaining match of the night. Obviously, Bianca and Io probably ran it close. I think Keeney, he's watched it and he commented on. I think he thought Bianca and Io was probably edged it out for match of the night. I don't think it could have gone either way. I don't think he's wrong on saying that at all. But very interesting nonetheless. And this match just had everything. It had some solid wrestling, some good one-on-one wrestling, some good spots. Obviously, the mad spot of Bad Bunny getting slammed, from high through a table. A man who was performing at Coachella like a week ago. He's a huge singer, and he's doing that. Mental. He won the match with a Canadian destroyer, or the Bunny Destroyer as they call it. So he's so good, and he takes the spots brilliantly. And fair play to Priest for being the ultimate professional as well in this match and being so careful. And yeah, everything looked really smooth and good. But what made the match more entertaining was all the run-ins in this to help Bunny. Obviously, you got the Judgment Day come down to help Priest. You had the LWO, but not just the LWO. You had a cool return with Carlito halfway through, doing a cool spot, eating the apple. You had Savio Vega as well, who was shown backstage earlier in the night, beating up Finn Balor. So yeah, it was just peak sports, and this was peak sports entertainment. Bianca and Io was probably a better wrestling match. This was like peak sports entertainment. Brilliant stuff, and the crowd loved it. Obviously, Bad Bunny winning as well had to happen. I think most people, 1 or 2 people did go for Priest, but most people went for Bunny. Yeah, awesome stuff. Really enjoyed it. And then we had Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn and Matt Riddle, of course, as well, versus the Bloodline of the Usos and Solo Sikoa. Another excellent match. I've mentioned it on the podcast a few times. Not as into this feud as I was before WrestleMania, and I'm glad it's kind of ending now. But the match was fun, and they told a good story within it. With Solo pinning Riddle, getting the pin for the Bloodline, and the Usos not really, nearly losing the match multiple times, and also Solo nearly losing it with Jay and hitting him with the Samoan Spike. So they're still building that tension in the Bloodline without it properly them turning on each other yet, but I think it's coming soon. It'd be interesting. Roman is back on SmackDown on Friday. He's going to be happy that they won the match, but obviously the Usos lost their tag title rematch this past Friday on SmackDown. So it's going to be very interesting to see what happens. I'm looking forward to seeing what happens next. And that really was what this match was all about. It's a shame for KO and Sami to lose a match when they're champions, but they didn't take the pin, and I don't really think they lost too much from it. And it adds further interest to the Bloodline storyline. So I'm happy enough with that. And then we got the main event of Cody Rhodes versus Brock Lesnar. Was a little bit surprised that main evented ahead of Bunny and Priest. And looking back, I actually think Bunny and Priest probably should have main evented with how that ended with all of them in the ring celebrating the LWO. I think that would have been the way to end the show. But Cody and Brock didn't disappoint. It was a solid match. Brock getting busted open looked so cool. Like, he had Rhodes in the Kimura lock and he was bleeding everywhere, and Cody just wins. And I like the fact that he just won, and that built into Raw and the story. You know, he's not going to dominate Brock Lesnar, but he can survive Brock Lesnar, as they put it on Raw, and pinned him just about. Brock doesn't look weak. Cody looks strong because he still pinned Brock at the end of the day. And he took a lot of punishment in that, including kicking out of an F5. So, yeah, it told the story it needed to do. It was entertaining enough. The crowd were into it. Good match. Not the strongest on the card, but it was what it needed to be. Overall, like I say, an excellent show for what it was, I think. One of the best WWE pay-per-views of the year. And then it led into Monday Night Raw last night. And yeah, there's some stuff I want to talk about from Raw. It was a good show, Raw, last night. Quite entertaining, felt fresh with NXT call-ups, people coming over from SmackDown, new feuds starting. And also still had some of the old, people on there as well that were in feuds before, wrestling before, doing things as well. And we had the start of the World Heavyweight Championship tournament. The 12 people revealed for the tournament were revealed over the weekend on Sunday. 6 from Raw, 6 from SmackDown. 2 triple threat matches on each shows. The 2 winners of the triple threat matches meet each other in the semi-finals, and then the winner from each brand will meet at the final at Night of Champions. And yeah, what a night for Seth Rollins. As predicted, I thought he would probably be the first champion. I thought he'd certainly be in the final. Cody, I was a little bit worried they might go there here with Cody, even though it's not the right decision in my opinion for the story, and I've seen a lot of people say the same. But I really like the way they booked Cody out of this. So Cody actually opened the show with a promo, and then him and Seth sort of cross paths as if they're going to face later on, because they're both going to win their triple threat matches. Nice little thing to throw you off. And then the tournament starts in the opener with Rollins, Nakamura, and Priest. And they have a pretty good match. Goes back and forth for 10, 15 minutes, something like that. Nakamura getting his first showing on Raw, coming over. He felt really fresh on this show because he's been, I think they said he's been on SmackDown for 7 years now. So it felt very different for him to be on Raw, and I really liked it. Him and Rollins facing off quite a lot in this was cool. Priest kind of was selling his injuries in the bunny match, so that was good. And ultimately, in the end, Rollins got the win to progress to the final later on in the show. Semi-final, the final course, coming at Night of Champions against someone from SmackDown. But yeah, really good match there. Nakamura later kind of confrontation with Miz. That's a match happening next week. Mustafa Ali beat Otis in a random match. Really didn't have too much. It was to further the storyline between the Maximum Male Model stuff and Gable and Otis, which I assume they're going to split soon. That was fine. Ali gets another win. Then we got the other triple threat for the tournament quite early in the night, and which I thought was quite cool because then it left a bit of a space to the main event for the other match. And he had Finn Balor, The Miz, and Cody Rhodes. And my fear was that Rhodes was going to win here, and then maybe it'd be a bit predictable later that Rollins was going to beat Cody because Brock was going to interfere. But he interfered here, and he looked so cool doing it because he had a busted eye. He F5'd Cody through a table, had him like that, challenged him to a match at Night of Champions, which is going to happen. So we're getting Lesnar Cody 2 in Saudi Arabia. That is going to be really good, I think. And the way they're wording it, it's going to be a fight, not a match. So I'm wondering it's going to have some sort of stipulation to it. Maybe a cage or a Hell in a Cell or something. I don't know. But I reckon there's going to be a stipulation to the match, which could make it even cooler. And yes, this allowed Lesnar's attack on Cody as he was about to win, by the way. He had the match won. He did 3 crossroads on Miz. Was about to pin him when Lesnar attacked him, and it opened the door for Finn Balor to beat The Miz. And Finn Balor then would win and face Seth Rollins for the main event later on, which was a cool callback because the first Universal title match to decide the champion was Balor and Rollins, and they did a cool callback spot in the main event, which I'll get to in a bit as well. But yeah, cool match. Rhea Ripley, And a squash match Dana Brooke got on TV, which was cool to see, I guess. And it looks like her next challenger is going to be Natalia, which is a little bit underwhelming, but at least I don't think they feuded, not at least recently. So it's something fresh, and it's someone for Rhea to beat comfortably and keep building this run that I'm sure is going to go quite long. It's only just started, so that was all fine. Nothing special there, really, but it was all right. Then we got a cool backstage segment with Owens and Zayn and Imperium. Gunther coming next week. Ludwig and Giovanni, though, took on KO and Sami Zayn. I couldn't believe they did this match already. I thought maybe would be a title match down the line. Good in-ring action, as you'd expect with these four guys, with Owens and Zayn winning clean and comfortably in the end. Really entertaining TV tag team match. Yeah, good stuff. And a good introduction to Raw, even though they lost for Imperium. Zoe Stark made her in-ring debut, of course, an NXT call-up. She was sort of the only one on this Raw to make her in-ring debut. Had a match with Nikki Cross, set up a segment earlier on in the night. Zoe Stark's got a cool finisher. That's the main thing about her. She's not got too much of a personality, which I think her character needs a little bit of work. But in the ring, she's really solid, and she's got a very good finisher that looks really cool. And I think that will get her over eventually. Just a bit of a character tweak, and I think she'll do quite well on the main roster, to be honest. They had quite a short match, but Zoe with the win. Good start for her on Raw, I would say. Trish Stratus cut a promo as well on this night. She had missing posters for Becky Lynch. She toyed with the crowd, playing her music, saying she's not here. I thought she cut a really good promo. She was talking to Graves and talking to Kevin Patrick as well. I thought she had a really, really good promo here, actually. And then just as it was kind of winding down, you're like, okay, this has gone on a while now. Out comes Becky Lynch. I didn't expect her to return this quickly. I heard she had a bit of an injury. And so she took out Trish. I don't know when the match is going to happen. Is it going to be Night of Champions? Now she's back this quickly, I'm assuming it's going to happen at Night of Champions and not drag it to SummerSlam, which was originally the rumour. But they do like to do one big women's match, usually at least in Saudi Arabia. They've done Becky and Lita once before. So Becky and Trish would make sense there in Saudi Arabia. So I can see that happening. Xavier Woods, he felt fresh over on Raw. Like, just different surroundings for him. Had a match with Dominic Mysterio. Wasn't much to it. It was a solid enough match. He lost, though. We had Sonya Deville and Chelsea Green doing some stuff backstage with Xia Li, with Liv Morgan and Raquel. They are going to get the next shot after Damage Control at the next championship. So we're setting up a women's tag division here. We saw the Way reunite as well. So you've got Candice and Indy potentially being involved in that women's tag title scene, which I think is badly needed. You should hopefully get Alba Fire and Isle of Dawn as well. So we're starting to build a few teams here. It's good to see the Way all together. It was quite funny because they said, "Oh, we're all together again." I was like, "Well, Austin Theory's not here, is he?" So it's not all of you technically, but solid. Introduction to some new characters. Xia Li maybe could have done a bit more, but next week, the week after, there's time. There's time for this. It's good. I really like what they're doing with Chelsea Green. I think her comeback has been quite good so far. I like her character. And Sonya Deville kind of suits it as well. So, yeah, I'm happy with what they're doing. And the only other thing to mention, really, is the main event. The Seth Rollins-Finn Balor match in the semi-finals. And the callback spot I was on about was, obviously, Rollins injured Balor with a buckle bomb in that match against the Barricade. Back in 2016, I think it was, when Balor won the Universal title, then had to give it up after a day. Here, he did it to Rollins to finally get his revenge. But that was all the revenge he got in this match because Rollins went on to win it clean. Really cool inverted stomp and then another stomp to win it. I was expecting Judgment Day to try and interfere here and try and help Balor, but it wasn't. It was a clean one-on-one match. Really good stuff. Two great wrestlers in a main event. Proper, with stakes as well. Good stuff. Rollins wins. The crowd go mad for it. They loved it. And yeah, a happy ending to Raw. And I have to say, WWE's hit a home run out of the park with the SmackDown being in Puerto Rico. It was a good show. The pay-per-view was great. And then the Raw was a solid follow-up. So I think WWE have hit it out of the park this weekend. Exciting stuff coming up in wrestling. We've got All In at Wembley, which we'll be going to. Don't think we mentioned that on this channel. We've got Money in the Bank as well at the O2 Arena, which we'll be going to. There's Night of Champions as well. There's Double or Nothing coming up for AEW. We want to cover more AEW stuff on the channel. Hopefully we'll be able to do that now with the way we're doing the videos a little bit more regularly. but like not set times and days. So hopefully you'll have more AEW. I might do something on AEW later in the week. Hopefully with one of the other guys, but Krusty is away at the moment, so he might not be able to do it. But yeah, we'll see. We'll see what we can do. I'd like to do some AEW content as well. But yeah, really enjoyed the weekend in WWE. So I thought I'd do a quick video on it. I've gone 20 minutes, so that's not too bad for talking on my own. Yeah, like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Follow us on Twitter @RechargeWrestle. I've been Fisher, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye.